Hello. Before we go back in time, you need to know that this is a very emotional subject for me. Until his death in 2003, my husband Jack was always by my side, working with me for Access. This was and is a heartbreaking loss for me, so if I have difficulty getting through my speech, you'll know why. Now come back with me to the pre-shelter days and the beginning of Access York. As far as I can determine, local concerns for battered women began in 1976 when one woman, using the name SOS, Save Ourselves, offered services to abused women using Contact York as her 24-hour answering service. In October 1977, the liaison dissolved, and Lou Curry, director of Contact, informed the York County Council of Churches and the United Way Planning Committee that something needed to be done for the battered women in York County by an existing agency or a newly formulated one. The United Way invited numerous county agencies, local organizations, churches, and interested parties to send a representative to a November 1977 meeting to discuss service needs for abused women. Lou asked me to represent Contact York at that meeting because she knew that years before I had been beaten. 19 women and men attended that first meeting, and we began to work toward a program and a shelter. Our goals were to provide temporary shelter for 8 to 10 women and their children at any one time, and to offer counseling and referral services. In January of 1978, we became the York County Task Force Against Domestic Violence, and in February we chose the name Access. It was a name we thought expressed what we would offer victims: access to a shelter, hope, and a better life. And we capitalized Access, so not only would it stand out in the phone book, it would also appear on the front page, close to the beginning. We also chose the color purple to represent sorrow for the moment, but hope for the future. In March, we had to become Access York because there was an Ohio corporation by the same name. We incorporated in April. Our first officers were President Carol Taylor, Vice President Hannelore Schreiber, and I was Secretary Treasurer. Our site search covered all of York City. We finally contracted on the very large 3-story double home, which is our shelter, and the county commissioners offered to fund the entire acquisition and rehab of this building to the tune of $80,000. During your training, you'll see the genuine ad for the previous occupants, a massage parlor, that we found in the basement of 634. Isn't it great that a building used to demean women is now a safe haven for both women and men who are victims of domestic violence? In March, it was strongly suggested by some city officials that group homes were a problem and we should move out of town. Our request for a special exception was originally denied, but it was later granted a couple months later without an appeal. Along the difficult and trying journey to make our vision a reality, we bid and then rebid the rehab and had original $4,000 worth of copper tubing stolen from the house. We delayed our opening 3 times. Then came inspection, and the house did not pass codes. When the new telephone directories were distributed, guess whose address, which was supposed to be a secret, appeared in the white pages for all to see, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. 25 days before our once again rescheduled opening on July 1st, lead-based paint was found in the kitchen, the pantry, and 2 upstairs bathrooms. Pipes under a bathtub were not connected. Water leaked, and we developed 3 holes in the pantry ceiling. On July 1st, 1980, we opened the shelter. At that time, I was board president. I had a staff of 4, an executive director, a live-in resident manager who was told she had to cover all weekends until September, a counselor, and a secretary. Our savings account balance was $872. Checking held $37, and our debts totaled $9,500. But I must tell you, the board members took pity on the resident manager, and we worked weekends. weekends for her so that she didn't have to work 2 months without a day off. But would you believe that people were having difficulty getting our phone number from information? Our address was to be a secret, but our phone number was the link. During the remaining months of 1980, we continued to work to come up to codes, cope with disappearing donations, deficiencies in petty cash, and harassment from intruders. In November, our total funds in round figures were $3,700, but we had to pay $7,000 to the Pennsylvania Coalition by December 1st, so we borrowed $2,500. We truly were a shelter on a shoestring. Our delinquent tax notices came in February 1981, and our pantry ceiling still leaked. But that year, the Young Women's Club chose us to receive $8,000. In July of 1981, we had persevered and made it for a year. We hired a new full-time resident manager and our first maintenance man. In 1.5 years, our staff turnover had been 3 executive directors, 2 counselors, 3 full-time resident managers, 1 part-time resident manager, and 2 secretaries. In 1981, I resigned from the board for the much-needed R&R, but I kept in touch with Access over the years. And in 1990, when I retired from school nursing, I once again decided to devote my energies to this agency, which is so dear to my heart. I've completed several terms of board membership, and I am a trained volunteer. I mentioned earlier that I was a battered woman. My first husband, drunk or sober, really enjoyed belittling everything about me. My food, my face, my dress, my clothes, my cooking, you name it. In these and other ways, he verbally abused me in front of family, friends, co-workers, and even strangers. He loved to go drinking instead of coming home from work. When he did come home, he would beat me with his fists for no reason. The next morning, he never remembered how or why I got the cuts and bruises, but he said he was truly sorry, although he was sure I had done something to provoke him. This continued for 5 years, until one night, and I still vividly remember that night, he chased me through our home with a butcher knife, while our baby slept and our 3-year-old son trembled in a corner. That finally did it. I realized that if he killed me, our sons would be left with him to raise. I was lucky. I had compassionate parents, a home to flee to, and nurses training that ensured me a job. But so many women and men are not that fortunate. I'm sorry there has to be a shelter, but I'm so glad it's here when it's needed so much. I was a victim, and I am a survivor. Being a founding mother of Access York and working with our staff, the board, and other volunteers has helped me to face up to, deal with, and recover from my 5 years of abuse, more than I ever dreamed it would. I have also been blessed with Jack, my wonderful, patient, and supportive husband, who worked beside me in all my endeavors with Access, and truly was the wind beneath my wings. We celebrated our 39th wedding anniversary in August of 2003, and in October he died from a cancerous brain tumor. I am living proof there can be life and happiness after domestic violence. There have been many firsts and milestones in Access York's relatively short history. In our 1983 annual report, we proudly revealed that the previous year Access was designated as the most cost-efficient shelter funded by the PCADV. How about that? When I made this video in the shelter, we had 5 women and 6 children. In our bridge housing program, we had 8 women, 1 man, and 17 children. I conclude with this thought. Access York began as a shelter on a shoestring. Our services have expanded to meet community needs. We're working to make that need disappear. Thank you for caring enough about Access York and the Victim Assistance Center, our missions, and the victims and their children whom we serve to take this training and join us. You are very special people.